cryptids, monsters, strange beings unknown to science. Today we are going to explore some of the allegedly true stories submitted by you, the viewer. My name is Scott. I'm a naturalist, a zoologist, an ecologist with years in university and in situ, in the field, with wildlife from around the world. It is this experience I want to draw upon to help you, the viewer, come to your conclusions on what these encounters might be. Whether they are animal, vegetable, or imagination. You be the judge. But let's get into our first story. This first story was submitted by Myra. Hi Scott. I'm a huge fan and absolutely wanted to jump at the opportunity to tell someone about something small that happened to me and my friend on the way home from a concert. I can preface this story by saying I live in Virginia. I am very familiar with the Appalachian Mountains. Don't go out at night. If you heard something, no, you didn't. No whistling. Paranormal stuff aside, there are bears, bobcats, and venomous snakes around. It's best to just be home by sunset. The drive to the show was relatively easy. A bit of mountain driving, but where we're located, you have to drive over one mountain or the other to get anywhere away from our small town. The drive to the show was uneventful. The show was fine. It was the way home that things got a little weird. It was 11-ish, probably closer to midnight, when we were driving down a fairly empty road. Each side of the road had two lanes with a fairly sizable grass median separating the two lanes going southbound from the two going northbound. We're very used to seeing roadkill, especially larger ones like deer. So when we drove up closer to this mass in the median on my left, I didn't give it a thought. Poor Bambi never saw it coming. But as we got closer, this pale mass crawled up from the median in a sick, unnatural-looking way to stand up from its crouched position. Its limbs were long, and it was crouched like it had been crawling through the tall grass. I wish I was lying when I said the light that came off of its eyes when my headlights hit it was red. We passed it before it fully stood up, and I sure as hell wasn't stopping to check on it. I've never been so scared in my life. After we passed, my friend and I were dead silent. The conversation we had died right there at the sight of that thing. We drove for a few minutes in silence before I finally asked, "Did you see it too?" She just barely squeaked out a yes in response, and went back to our silent drive for a few minutes longer. I think we both silently agreed to get some distance between us and whatever the hell that was before we spoke out again. "You saw it too? Did you see the way it crawled at us? What was that? Did you see its eyes?" We talked hardly above a murmur, like the thing was in the back seat with us. I'd never been so terrified. I never felt smaller, like prey. I swear to you, you could feel it in the air that something was wrong. Or maybe it's because that's how damn scared we were. Me and my friends and my family have always kind of joked about, look out for skinwalkers, or watch out for the Wendigo. I think this is the closest I've ever come to truly believing in any of that. I would have convinced myself I made it up in my head if I didn't have another set of eyes to see it. Thank you for taking the time to read my short encounter with this thing that doesn't know how to use a crosswalk, apparently. I hope I'll never see or think about anything like that again. First off, thank you very much for your submission, and I'm glad you love the channel. Second, you said this creature was at the side of the road in Appalachia, and it seemed to have some mass to it. It was quite pale, maybe even white, and it had red eyeshine. So red eyeshine within a lot of animals is kind of rare, especially in mammals and whatnot, though it can occur in things like raccoons. Eye shine in animals comes from something called the tapetum lucidum, or lucidum. It is a reflective layer of cells in the back of the eye, which is very useful for a lot of species. Everything from spiders to bears has this, but primates, well, at least the simian primates, including humans, don't have these, just because evolutionarily didn't seem useful. But when it comes to animals in this area, I have two potentialities that you could have seen. Potentially, keep saying that word, this is a owl. I know that sounds silly, but it could be a large American species of owl that was crouched down at the side of the road hunting. Maybe it had just landed on something, got right down, and then as soon as your car came, it wasn't ready to leave its prey and started to kind of get up. As you go past quite fast, it's hard to make out what this animal is, but owls do have red eye shine, and many can be white. And when you are driving past fastly, it is a little difficult to tell the size. It could also be an albino or leucistic variation of other animals like deer, potentially something that did get hit. But that's my best explanation. Could also be a creepy, crawly thingy. The next story is from Shadow Chop. They begin with, "Let me start by saying that I have been listening for years. Your stories are awesome. Dirty Work Inc. is still a first favorite for me. Now let me make it clear. I've ridden various types of chopper motorcycles for most of my life. This story takes place in north central Florida, in the Silver Springs, Hermosa area. It is late at night, between the hours of 12 and 2 a.m. I was riding my Harley down Citrus Highway. That stretch was relatively dark. There wasn't much traffic. A couple trucks passing, but nothing steady. I've never been afraid to open my bike's throttle and let her have the lead. I figured at the time I was doing around 70 to 75-ish miles per hour. I have no idea what this is in kilometers, based on the angle I was leaning in the turns. I started to feel uneasy, like something was wrong. And I'll make it clear, the bike I was on was my shovelhead. I inherited it from my favorite uncle when he passed, and I basically grew up in the saddle of this bike. It's like hugging an old friend when I straddle that thing. So whatever was wrong wasn't with me or the bike. I slowed down. Not much, but enough to relax my posture. I still can't say why. I turned on the high beams and hidden LED fog lights mounted at the bottom of the frame. I looked ahead, and something was standing next to the road. Not moving, not crossing, just standing there like it was a hitchhiker. I wasn't sure what I was seeing, but it was like slow motion in a way. It was bipedal and big. It felt like I wasn't supposed to be in that spot. Like I wasn't going to get home safely if I stopped. So I downshifted and sped up. As soon as I passed the spot where it stood, it was gone. I didn't see it move, and there weren't any trees or objects I could see as I passed. About 10 minutes later, the part that still boggles me happened. I turned right onto a road called Stagecoach. There are 2 or 3 hills you have to climb before the backside of one of these hills takes a slight banked turn to the left. I remember the hills. I remember the beginning of my lean into the corner going left. Then I saw the figure again, out of the corner of my eye. It was like running beside my bike. No features, just darkness and bulk. Then I was cresting the second to last hill before the other end of the road and its stop sign. That's it. All the weird feelings were gone, like it never happened. I've traveled that road thousands of times, as I grew up in this area. There's a small cemetery along the road to the right. It's got a bunch of lights in it. I never passed it, at least not in a way that I could physically see. The creature was literally as I described. Bipedal, yes, but dark and bulky, easily as tall as my father had been, around 6'5". I've been down to that exact route many times since, but I've never experienced anything of the sort again. I have other stories, both mine and various sources, that are both trusted and close to me. If you'd like them, I'll get permission to share them with you. So I want to start by saying, yes, I'd love to hear more stories from you. Sounds very interesting, and that I love Florida. I've been there many times, driven up and down parts of the state. Really enjoyable, beautiful natural landscape. So I have experience in this location. And this sounds like your typical Bigfoot or skunk ape encounter. Now, large apes like this in the Americas are not in the fossil records at all, unfortunately. The only apes present in America are human beings. So this is interesting. I am not averse to the idea of a large hominid species being around the world that we haven't discovered yet. It's the highest possibility to me in terms of cryptids. There being a Yeti, a Bigfoot, a skunk ape. But do I think that's what this was? Personally, no. Because there is a large mammal in that part of the world that can account for most of these sightings, and I'm sure a lot of you believers out there are going to hate me for saying this, but I still have to give my professional opinion. I believe it's a large black bear. Now, black bears have been recorded not just standing upright on their hind legs, but also walking on their hind legs. And again, when you are traveling at speed, it is a little difficult to discern how fast an animal is moving, especially on a corner. If you're taking a corner and something is walking or moving on that corner, the movement you are making can make it seem like it is going at a faster speed than it actually is. There are some cases of black bears injuring their front paws so that they are forced to walk upright most of the time, and some can get very, very good at it. So that's what I believe this could have been. Other than that, maybe you found the skunk ape. And if you did, please invite them onto the show here. I'd love to meet them. Our next story is from Mason. On my mother's side of the family, we are Native American. Great-grandpa of the Skott, also known as Creek, and my great-grandmother from the Sioux tribe. I was lucky I knew my great-grandfather before he passed away when I was only 7 years old. A year later, however, we were visiting my great-grandmother to spend the week with her in the summertime, especially since it was her favorite time of year to grow crops in her garden. I slept in my great-grandparents' room since I felt closer to my great-grandfather, surrounded by his medals and ribbons that he earned when he was in the Navy. Around 2 a.m., I heard knocking on the window in the room I was sleeping in. I woke up and felt a chill, my blood running cold. Mind you, the AC wasn't on since my great-grandmother was on blood thinners at the time, so it was always hot. But this felt off, as if I was in the middle of winter. I looked out the window to see what was going on, and I saw a figure about the same height as my great-grandfather, who was 6'3", 192 centimeters, I believe, for Europeans, standing next to the chopped wood pile where he was every day chopping wood. The figure had moved forward slightly, calling for me. "Come outside. It's me, your great-grandfather. I want to show you something I got from Japan." But before I could say or do anything, a hand reached over and covered my mouth. My great-grandmother whispered, without breaking eye contact with the figure, and said to me, "That's not your great-grandfather. That's an abomination, an evil spirit. Do not speak to it, and do not acknowledge it." She then led me away from the window and proceeded to cover all the windows and doors with black ash whilst chanting in Navajo. Ancestors, guide my hands, protect my children from evil, from abominations that walk the earth. Cast away all evil spirits and form a protective shield around those I love. Once she finished, she led me to her room, where she then added another barrier of black ash, and I felt warmth again. The next day is when I learned about what skinwalkers are and how they became who they are, how they can mimic those we love and those we know in life to lure us to them. I had an encounter with the evil side of one, a shaman that was too eager and impatient to learn how to walk as an animal, how they made a deal with evil in order to shapeshift sooner rather than later. But because of that, they're now bloodthirsty and unable to control themselves. I also learned that on my great-grandfather's side, down the bloodline, I am related to a shaman who took a deal with evil spirits of the forest, and that he now haunts my bloodline. Now, as an adult, whenever I go camping, I carry black ash everywhere I go to form a big circle around my camp. Some people call me crazy, but I'd rather be safe than sorry. To this day, I hear the sounds they make, how the insects all go absolutely quiet, the sounds of the woods just go deaf, and how the summer heat turns cold as winter is how I know one is always near, waiting, watching, hungry. That story really hit all the creepy notes. And when it comes to flesh gates and skinwalkers and mimics and these things that try to trick us into believing they're someone else, I do not really have anything to explain it. Now, when it comes to entities and spirits like this, there's nothing in the natural world that can do that to any available science's knowledge. I am a scientist. I do believe more in things I can see, hear, touch, and feel. But even still, I am agnostic. I'm more open to the idea of something unnatural in a way, if that makes sense, the paranormal. Whilst I'm not a staunch believer in any of it myself, I'm more open to the idea. And I'm not going to poo-poo the idea of anything spiritual happening here. That being said, even in my Irish and Celtic background, we do have similar things in the Fae that try to play tricks with you. And it is very interesting to see around the world that these entities that try and trick you, pretend to be someone else, are prevalent in every single culture. But anyway, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed what you saw here today, please leave a comment. Tell me if you'd like to see more. If you want to submit your own story for me to read, please look in the description and or top comment, and there will be an email address for you to follow and submit. Alternatively, you can submit it over at my Reddit page, which is r/naturestemper. All one word. But have a great day, and I love you very much.